For over 6 decades, Robert Duvall has been regarded as one of Hollywood's most disciplined, respected, and quietly commanding actors. A man of rare integrity who never chased fame, yet somehow defined it. From The Godfather to Apocalypse Now, his name became synonymous with professionalism and craftsmanship. But behind that stoic calm, the 94-year-old legend carried truths he had deliberately locked away. Truths about 4 men he worked beside, admired publicly but privately despised. Now, after a lifetime of silence, Duvall has finally broken his vow of discretion. His revelations have not only stunned Hollywood, they've rewritten the history of some of cinema's greatest films. After 94 years, what exactly am I waiting for? Duvall told a close confidant. It's time for the truth. What he revealed wasn't about petty rivalries. It was about betrayals so deep they shaped performances, fractured friendships, and changed the course of movie history. This is the story of the 4 actors Robert Duvall hated most, and the real reasons behind Hollywood's most hidden feuds. That if this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. Before naming names, Duvall explained why he was speaking now, after decades of stoic silence. According to friends, this wasn't the result of bitterness, it was reflection. At 94, with his Academy Award and legacy secured, Duvall began to watch tributes and documentaries that painted false pictures of unity and friendship. I sat through these retrospectives, he said, and they were talking about wonderful collaborations that never existed. I watched myself on screen with people I couldn't stand, and the story being told was a lie. The final trigger came during a Lifetime Achievement tribute in his honor. As clips rolled of his most iconic roles, Duvall was forced to watch footage of himself smiling beside the very people who made his life on set miserable. I realized history was being rewritten, he said. Someone had to correct the record. With that decision made, Duvall felt free. He had nothing left to prove, and perhaps for the first time, nothing left to protect. Then he began to speak. 1. Marlon Brando, the most destructive ego I ever encountered. The first name Duvall uttered sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Marlon Brando, arguably the greatest actor of all time. A man Duvall once publicly praised as a genius. Yet behind the admiration hid decades of resentment. He was brilliant, Duvall admitted, but he was also the most destructive ego I ever encountered in this business. Their feud began in 1966 during the chaotic filming of The Chase, directed by Arthur Penn. The production boasted an all-star cast: Brando, Jane Fonda, Robert Redford, and Duvall himself, but behind the camera, a psychological war was raging. Brando would deliberately change his performance on every take, Duvall recalled. He'd alter his tone, his blocking, even his lines, just to make editing impossible. He called it protecting the performance. I called it sabotage. Duvall's biggest scene, a pivotal monologue, became a nightmare. According to crew members, Brando made subtle noises off-camera, clearing his throat, rustling papers, ruining take after take. After the 5th interruption, Duvall confronted him. He just smirked and said, "Maybe you should be stronger in your choices." That was Brando. He'd tear you down, then call it art. Though they would later appear in The Godfather, their paths never crossed on screen, a decision Duvall now suspects wasn't accidental. I learned from him, Duvall said, but not just about acting. I learned how not to treat people. Genius doesn't excuse cruelty. 2. James Caan, competitive to the point of malice. The second name cut even closer to home. James Caan, Duvall's fiery co-star in The Godfather, played Sonny Corleone opposite Duvall's calm consigliere Tom Hagen. On screen, they were brothers. Off-camera, the tension was real. Jimmy was competitive to the point of malice, Duvall said flatly. If I had a strong scene, he'd find a way to steal it. Bigger gestures, louder reactions, anything to pull focus. The animosity peaked during the iconic family meeting scene when the Corleones discussed going to war. Between takes, Duvall discussed his character's motivation with Francis Ford Coppola. According to Duvall, Caan interrupted, sneering, "You're overthinking it, Bob. You're just the family secretary." "That's when I decided we'd never be friends," Duvall recalled. "But it helped my performance. Hagen was supposed to watch Sonny carefully, and that's exactly what I did." Despite their feud, Duvall and Kahn hit it well. Decades of press tours and reunions showed two men laughing together, reminiscing about old times. "When we were promoting the movie," Duvall admitted, "we both knew what was at stake. You don't let personal issues damage a masterpiece." "We smiled for the cameras. That's also acting." The professionalism that allowed them to conceal their animosity for 50 years speaks volumes about Duvall's dedication and how much Hollywood depends on illusion. 3. Dustin Hoffman, the credit thief who never stopped. The third revelation shocked nearly everyone. Before either became famous, Duvall and Dustin Hoffman were struggling actors sharing a small New York apartment in the early 1960s. They were friends, or so Duvall thought. "We'd rehearse together for auditions," Duvall said. "I'd spend weeks shaping an interpretation, and then Dustin would audition for the same part using my exact approach. When he got the job, he'd say, 'I inspired him.' That's not inspiration. That's theft." As their careers rose, the pattern continued. During the late 1960s, when Duvall was filming True Grit and Hoffman was preparing for Midnight Cowboy, Hoffman often phoned Duvall seeking advice on accent and character rhythm. "I helped him find Ratso Rizzo's voice," Duvall claimed. "Then I read an interview where he said he developed it by studying homeless men in New York. Never once mentioned me." The breaking point came during pre-production for The French Connection. Both men were considered for the lead. According to Duvall, Hoffman told director William Friedkin that Duvall was difficult and uncooperative. The role went to Gene Hackman. "That crossed a line," Duvall said. "That wasn't competition, it was sabotage." Even after that betrayal, Duvall remained publicly cordial for decades. Hollywood saw two old friends respecting each other's craft. Behind closed doors, he never forgot. When asked why he stayed silent so long, Duvall answered simply, "Because back then, you didn't air dirty laundry. But truth, unspoken, becomes poison. I've carried it long enough." 4. Robert Redford, the fraud behind the golden image. The final name floored the industry. Robert Redford, the golden boy of Hollywood, the environmentalist, the founder of Sundance, the picture of integrity. To Duvall, that image was the greatest performance of Redford's life. Redford perfected his persona, Duvall said, "the thoughtful artist, the champion of others. But the man I worked with on The Natural was something else entirely." Duvall played sports columnist Max Mercy opposite Redford's Roy Hobbs in the 1984 classic. Their on-screen rivalry mirrored what was happening off-screen. He'd keep entire crews waiting for hours, Duvall recalled. Not because he was deep in character, but because he was on the phone doing business deals. That's not commitment, that's arrogance. Duvall alleged that Redford pressured director Barry Levinson to cut several of Max Mercy's scenes, claiming they slowed down the story. In truth, those scenes challenged Hobbs's hero narrative. He didn't want another strong presence on screen, Duvall said. He wanted to dominate every frame. The moment that ended their friendship came during post-production, when Duvall confronted him directly. According to crew members, Redford smiled and said, "You're a character actor, Bob. I'm a movie star. We don't play by the same rules." That sentence told me everything, Duvall said quietly. The fraud behind the golden image. Duvall's confessions spread through Hollywood like wildfire. Representatives for Hoffman and Redford issued polite, carefully crafted statements expressing surprise and respect. Others stayed silent. But inside the industry, whispers began. A former assistant director on The Godfather confirmed the tension between Duvall and Kahn. Crew members from The Natural recalled Redford's long delays. Even Coppola himself, without naming names, admitted that some of the best chemistry on screen came from very complicated relationships behind it. Veteran actors privately reached out to Duvall, thanking him for saying what they'd been too afraid to say. "Bob did what most of us never dared," said one Oscar winner off the record. "He told the truth." As for Duvall, he seemed lighter, almost relieved. "I didn't do this to destroy, anyone, he clarified in a follow-up statement. I did it to correct the record. The truth matters, even in a business built on illusion. Duvall's revelations aren't just gossip. They're a mirror held up to Hollywood itself. For decades, the industry has thrived on myth-making. Publicists call feuds creative differences. Egos are repackaged as artistic passion. Duvall shattered that illusion. He reminded the world that some of cinema's most powerful performances came not from harmony, but from conflict. The tension between Tom Hagen's cool intellect and Sonny Corleone's hot temper wasn't acting alone, it was real emotion channeled into art. Great art doesn't always come from great relationships. The late director Sidney Lumet once said, Duvall's career proves it. To young actors, his honesty offers a dual lesson. Hollywood isn't the family it pretends to be, but professionalism and integrity can survive within it. You can hate someone's guts, Duvall once said, and still deliver the scene of your life. That's the job. As the storm of reactions continues, one question lingers. Has Duvall said everything? His final words in that interview suggest otherwise. These four stood out, he said with a faint smile, but they weren't the only ones. Hollywood's always been better at creating myths than facing realities. Maybe it's time for more reality. In an industry obsessed with image, Robert Duvall's last great role may not be in front of the camera, but behind it, playing the only part that still matters, the truth teller, and perhaps that's the most fitting legacy of all.